New moon in Capricorn, just around the corner. And of course, we are finishing off this year, 2024, with this new moon. It's happening for us in the UK on GMT on the 30th of December. For those of you in Australia, it's going to be happening on New Year's Eve, in fact, but it's at the tail end of the year nonetheless. So we are really closing out this year, this calendar year, with a new moon in Capricorn. So we look at new moons in terms of a new cycle, a new lunar cycle, and we're setting our intentions. We're putting forth our manifestations for that new lunar cycle ahead. And of course, looking at the astrology, which we know is the bigger picture, we're not just saying the moon's in Capricorn, etc., etc., etc. We are actually saying there's a lot more going on than that. So we take the bigger picture and we look at the energy and how that's playing out, and then we can adapt forward in terms of how we're wanting to manifest our reality and set our intentions in alignment with that energy, how it's working for us. This is bigger than that, because this is about the year that's ahead of us. And 2024 has been quite a turbulent year. It's been full of challenges. It's been full of kind of roller coaster type activity, with the healing journey, with revelations, with past life karma that's having to be cleansed, and lots of evolution and transformation, especially because of Pluto's monumental move into Aquarius. So there has been a lot going on, and there's still a lot to come, by the way, but we are getting through this. We are adapting as we go. We are evolving as we go. This is part of our transformation. This is part of the journey, if you like, and we're discovering a lot more about ourselves along the way. But let's rewind back to this new moon in Capricorn that's coming up. Capricorn energy, very focused, very driven, very determined, very structured. It's earth energy, so there is a grounded feel to it. It's cardinal energy, so of course it wants to get things started, and it's all about getting things done. Saturn rules Capricorn, so it is all about learning those lessons, passing those tests. He is a taskmaster, so there is drive and determination and focus with Capricornian energy, which is great because we do need that to propel us forward. However, the moon being in Capricorn is at detriment, because the moon's home is Cancer. So this is the opposite sign for the moon. We know the sun is there, and there is going to be an exact conjunction, because that's what happens for a new moon. Okay, the moon and the sun are at the exact same degrees of Capricorn and the same minutes. So they are on top of each other, okay, metaphorically speaking there. And that's heightening the energy of the soul essence of the cosmos and our emotional home. If our emotional home is not so comfortable in Capricorn, we need to remove emotion from a situation when it comes to setting these intentions moving forward. And that might sound a bit alien, it might sound a bit contradictory, because of course we need to feel into things to understand, and we do, absolutely. But when it comes to us being driven in relation to our path moving forward, we may just have to take emotion out of it to get things done, because that's what's going to align better with the Capricornian energy. And certainly because the sun is there and the moon is there, it's heightening that energy of the focus. So of course I'm going to pull up the chart and show you other astrological alignments that I've been drawn to, but it is essentially about what do we want to set our intentions and manifest around in relation to this new lunar cycle, but also this new year that's ahead of us. We want to be focused, we want to be driven, we know what path we are on, or that which we want to be on. So it's about applying that focus and determination to get things done. That can still feel uncomfortable, because as I say, the moon doesn't want to be in Capricorn. So it's almost like, okay, it's probably going to feel a bit arduous and a bit uncomfortable, because we want to be in the familiar. But this is asking us, certainly with this new year ahead of us, to step out of that comfort zone. And, you know, there's a lot going on in the astrology for January also. We've got Venus moving into Pisces on the 3rd of January, certainly for GMT, okay? And we've also got Mars a few days after that, retrograding back into the sign of Cancer, a place where Mars doesn't really feel comfortable to be, because he's got to feel the feelings. But as part of his retrograde, he's going to move back into the sign of Cancer. And then we have got a big event on the 11th of January. I think it's the 12th of January for Australia as well. Okay, so check that with the time zones. But 11th of January, we have got the nodal shift So the lunar nodes, the north node and the south node, which I often talk about in these videos, are going to be shifting from Aries and Libra into Pisces and Virgo. This is big, okay? And they're going to be there retrograding back as they move backwards until 2026. I think it's April 2026. So for quite a time. And there is a massive shift with this because we are moving from that Aries and Libra cardinal energy into mutable energy. And I'm going to be doing a separate video on this, by the way, so look out for that if you're interested, but it's going to be big, okay? But we've got that, and then we've got a few days after that, the full moon in Cancer. So there's still quite a lot going on, even for January, okay? So let's get things in order now with this new moon in Capricorn, as we're closing out 2024 and looking ahead to 2025, okay, in terms of really where we need to put the work and effort in, what we may need to do, boundaries we might need to put in place, rules that we may need to create for ourselves, okay? Because remember, Pluto moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, he was trudging up all those outdated systems and structures and rules that were not working for us, that we need to detach from, and moving into this new innovative reality. So when we think of this in terms of us moving forward into our own new reality and the version of that, however it might look for us, then we need to put our own rules in place. But where have we had to detach from rules and situations and structures that have not worked for us? The cycles that we've had to close out. So it's evaluating that as we look back on the year and we're closing out this big cycle of 2024. In order to move forward, we need to free up space in order to do that, okay? Whenever we're trying to create something new and to manifest, we need to create the space for those manifestations to take place, okay? So we're having to detach as well as put those intentions in place for that which we're trying to receive and achieve in 2025, okay, on our path. So let's jump into the chart and we'll see what we've got coming up, okay, for the new moon. So bear with me whilst I just find the chart for you. I have got the one that's against the UK's chart as well, just to give some context on the house system for you as well. So here we go. All right, so new moon in Capricorn. For us in the UK on GMT, this is happening on the 30th of December at 22:26. Okay, so for Australia, it's going to happen on the 31st, on New Year's Eve. But even so, 30th of December, that's still at the tail end of the year. We're closing out the year. We're setting those intentions, those New Year's resolutions for the next year ahead. So we're doing what we would do on a new moon, but on a bigger scale, because we're not only looking at the lunar cycle ahead of us, we're looking at the new year ahead of us. Okay, and in order to actually maintain and sustain those New Year's resolutions and the intentions we want for the year, you know, we need to be realistic and we need to be driven and focused to see them through. And that's the Capricornian energy that's going to help us. Okay, so here we have the moon in Capricorn conjunct the sun in Capricorn. As I say, it's an exact conjunction when we have a new moon, so 9 degrees 43 minutes. The only other energy here in Capricorn is Pallas, so that's the asteroid Pallas, okay? And there is definitely something about strategizing here and putting plans in place, but with that warrior spirit attitude, okay? This is about fighting for what we want. And of course, in order to fight for what we want, we need to understand how we're going to go about that. What do we need to do? What do we need to put in place? Remember, I said about rules and boundaries. So having that warrior spirit, that kind of goddess Athena spirit, if you like, needing to strategize. This is what I want. This is really what I'm driven to achieve. And this is how I'm going to go about doing it because I believe in it. Okay, so that's all part of it as well. So we've got that in Capricorn, and that's cardinal energy. It starts things off. It's all about starting things off. So it's very much about taking that action. It's about doing. Okay, it's about doing stuff, and it's earth energy. It's reality based. So what are we doing in our reality, and what do we need to do in our reality to achieve those goals? Because Capricorn and even Saturn, you know, calls for us to achieve certain things. So we need to do things in order to achieve, okay? And this is all about in alignment with what we're wanting for this new lunar cycle and this new year ahead, okay? So that's where we have the sun and the moon. And there is challenging energy, okay? So when we look at the chart, this is a freeze frame of the cosmos at the time of the new moon. And there's challenging energy because we've got square, semi-square, and sesqui-square going on. No trines that are linked to the sun and the moon, but we have got trines going on elsewhere, and I will come to those. The most challenging energy here, I feel, is from the sun and the moon across to Lilith in Libra, because that's the square, okay? Now, Lilith is also in a cardinal sign. Libra is a cardinal sign. And Lilith is a great teacher as well. She will show us the shadow aspects that we need to address. And she will also hold those deep desires that we have for what we truly want. So if we actually look at the energy between Lilith and Pallas, both feminine asteroid energy, Lilith is kind of holding those deep desires there, as well as the shadow wounds. And Pallas is sort of saying, okay, well, if we want to fight for this, we've got to do something about it. We need to put a plan in place. We need to have structure around this. We need to create our rules. We need to put boundaries in place. Come on, let's go, Lilith, let's go. So they can, you know, that energy, there's no link between them, by the way. I'm just talking about the energy of the two asteroids. But looking at the, you know, the two feminine energy that's there, with Pallas in Capricorn, and then we've got Lilith in Libra, this is about needing to address those shadow aspects within us where perhaps things have not been fair in the past. So we're staring at 2025 and saying, right, I want to achieve this in 2025. I've been discovering a lot about myself in 2024. This is what I want to achieve. Appreciate I've got to take emotion out of this. Thank you very much, Capricorn. And I need to actually be focused and driven, which is a bit out of my comfort zone, but okay, I know I've got to do it. And in order to do that, I understand that perhaps I need to kind of unlock and uncover some of those aspects where I've tried to do things in the past. I've tried to be focused in the past and things haven't worked out for me, or they've not been reciprocal, or there's not been harmony as a result of it. So I've kind of pushed them away. I've pushed my desires away. I've kind of, you know, gone back on those dreams and those plans that I've wanted for myself because things haven't worked out, or there hasn't been that divine justice and things have been unfair and blah, 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 because those shadow aspects need to be addressed in order to move through them. Okay, so we've got the, you know, the sun and the moon there, calling for these intention settings to move us forward, and the, you know, the soul essence of the cosmos, the sun, shining no matter what and saying, look, okay, whatever has happened. We've got to get through this, and this is this push with the emotional home, the push through the uncomfortable emotions, moon and Capricorn, in order to address those shadow aspects to create the balance and harmony that we have wanted, but maybe we haven't experienced before. It's a shadow aspect because it's kind of affected our confidence. It's made us feel less worthy of going for what we want because it hasn't worked out in the past. So it becomes a familiar story that we tell ourselves. Whereas Pallas, just there next to the sun and moon in Capricorn, is reminding Lilith as a fellow feminine asteroid to say, look, come on, we've got this. We've just got to, you know, get through this and put a plan in place because we've got to fight for what we want here. So we need to address those deep desires of Lilith, you know, and we really at the pit of our soul want to do something and want to pursue something, and we have this drive for like 5 minutes and then immediately the shadow aspects come up. We get into the overthinking and we talk ourselves out of it because it's like uncomfortable to pursue it because it's not worked out in the past, and that's where we get trapped in that sort of pattern, if you like. So now this is about pushing through the discomfort anyway, and we're not hiding the fact here that there is some discomfort because we've got the squares showing up for us. That's in the astrology. We can see that there is a reason for us feeling that way, because we need to address where things have not worked out in the past. Don't forget, at the moment, the South Node is still in Libra. I've mentioned to you that on the 11th of January, that's going to shift, and the South Node is actually going to be in Virgo then. But for the time, the South Node is in Libra. Of course, we're wanting to lay that foundation of fairness. We want there to be justice in our lives, because we want to move forward in a balanced way, harmonious way, and we want to be able to receive the same that we're giving, that reciprocal energy. Lilith might be showing us where that's not happened. And so we're kind of fearful of pursuing what we want, because what if it doesn't come back to us in the way, you know, that we want it to? This is asking us to push through it anyway. So surrender is a part of this, admittedly. And there's other things going on, like our expression, which I'll come on to, okay? Because remember, I say to you, it's the bigger picture. I'm not just saying the moon's in Capricorn, so we've got to be driven and focused and we might feel uncomfortable. No, I'm giving you the other aspects as well to form a bigger picture, because that might resonate with you in terms of things that are going on for you, shadow aspects that have been coming up, knowing that you really want to do something. Why am I holding myself back? Okay, and it's addressing those patterns as to why that might be the case, in order to then propel yourself forward into this new reality of the Pluto and Aquarius theme, if you like, but also the new reality of 2025 and wanting things to be different. It's a new year, a new start. So it's a big deal, okay? And we need to close out cycles. We need to close out chapters that are not working for us, but take the wisdom forward with us from those chapters, from those cycles. Okay, so that was me just, you know, highlighting a bit about Lilith, because that's where the square is. Now there is a semi-square that's going across from the sun and the moon to Venus, and that's also feminine energy. So between Venus and Lilith, we've got light and shadow feminine going on. But Venus is very much, and has been reminding us this year, of where we are investing our energy. Okay, so this is still challenging energy, but not as much as the shadow aspects, I would say, because it's a semi-square. But it can still be challenging nonetheless, because we're still having to look at where are we putting our time, energy, and effort in. Are we actually applying our energy and our attention, our love, our affection, our money, and so on, in the areas that are going to propel us forward in this new reality? So if we look at the Capricornian energy and what I was saying about the drive to move forward in terms of doing what we're doing and really kind of like going for it, determined to succeed and to achieve and to propel ourselves forward by putting the work and effort into what we need to do, devoid of emotion. You know, Venus can also want us to feel things, because it's that feminine energy. And certainly Venus in Aquarius, there is this essence of kind of, you know, connecting with a lot of things. And perhaps we need to do that to understand what is right for us on our path forward. However, we don't want to get lost in that. We don't want to get caught up with too many options of things, because that can also throw us off track. This is about, okay, am I investing my time, energy, love, money, resources, whatever it might be, attention, in those areas, in those aspects, in those people, in those situations, projects, whatever it might be, that are in alignment with this new plan that I'm wanting to put in place for that which I want to achieve in 2025? Is it in alignment with that? Do I need to sort of like invest a bit less in that area, because it's going to give me more energy to put into my pursuits in terms of my future? And remember, Capricorn, devoid of emotion. So if we discover that we're investing our time and our energy in places where we're emotionally attached, but actually it's not really serving us because we're procrastinating from, you know, the task at hand of what we're wanting to achieve, then we need to understand we've got to invest less, but that might feel a bit uncomfortable because we've got to kind of emotionally detach a little bit in order to get back onto our path. Now, that's not to say that that is a hard and fast rule for everybody. What I'm trying to say here is, if we have plans for 2025 that we want to achieve, and we know we need to focus, we know we need to be driven and determined to achieve those plans, and those goals, then we need to understand where we are investing our time and our energy, and is that in alignment with the plan for those goals, or is it sort of taking our energy away? It's nice to have a bit of downtime, okay, because especially if we're really trying to be determined and focused and to get things done, because we want 2025, excuse me, to look a certain way, but we need to make sure that we are invested in that. Okay, and I'll come on to the commitment to this because Juno is part of this as well. But our investments of our Venus energy, you know, we're wanting to feel the joy from what we're doing. We're wanting to feel warm and cozy and fuzzy in the heart space and happy, because what we're doing is actually building our future, is actually allowing us to work towards what we want to achieve. So it may feel like, oh, this is regimented, I've really got to do this, and it's quite, you know, tough to keep on track, because remember, it's the Capricornian energy. It's like go, go, go. Other people might find that easy, by the way. If you've got a lot of Capricorn in your chart, you're going to find this easier than other people to do, because you've got that natural drive within your natal chart, within your soul's blueprint. And maybe it's incumbent on you to help those around you to actually, you know, maintain that focus, you know, to be that kind of motivation for other people and to inspire other people, because it's not easy for everybody. Trust me, I'm a Pisces. It's not easy for me to align with Capricorn energy, because that is very driven and I'm very floaty. So just to kind of like give you an example there. So people that have got that Capricornian drive, I can be inspired by, because they can be very determined. And I'm like, wow, how did you get that done? Oh, well, I did this, this and that, like it's nothing. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And it's the same the other way, you know, on the creative side or the dreamer side, a Capricorn might be like, wow, how do you actually, you know, have that vision for all of this? It works both ways, you know. Remember, going into this age of Aquarius, if you like, this is about connecting with others in different ways, in new, innovative ways. And, you know, we're here to support each other. And we need to be reminded of that often, because there's a lot of, what's the word? Dis-ease in the world right now. So we need to come together where we can to help each other through this. And what I'm trying to say, and I'm going around the houses in my typical Piscean way, hopefully you're following me, is that the Capricornian energy is brilliant to focus us, to get us to do things, but it can be hard to do that. It can be hard to get into that energy. Once you do and you align with it, and you're, you know, you can see the kind of results of your efforts, brilliant. That keeps you motivated and inspired. But to do it when you've not got that energy in your chart can be quite challenging. Okay, so some of you are going to find that easy, and some of you may not even really still know what your goals are, and that's okay, because the clarity will come through. This is about aligning with those goals. If you have that idea for 2025, this is what I want to achieve, but I know it's going to be hard work. It's about putting the plan in place and making sure with the Venus energy, to bring it back to that you are investing, you know, your energy in the right areas to align with that path, because ultimately that is what's going to bring that joy at the end of it. It's just this initial period of the work to get things done. But that's the Saturnian lesson of life, you see. And he is a taskmaster because he wants us to get things done. Okay, he's a great teacher in that way. So we need to be great students in that way. Okay, so that's the semi-square with Venus, and she will of course be moving into Pisces on the 3rd of January for those of us in the UK on GMT anyway. So she's at the kind of end of Aquarius there, just reminding us of that. Let's not get distracted by too many things. Let's try and pull it back a bit and still have that focus, okay, when it comes to the heart energy, and, you know, reminding ourselves of the joy that we want to experience and how we're going to achieve that. If we're going to achieve that joy for ourselves by putting our head down and getting on with it and doing the work, then of course that is going to bring us that joy, rather than finding the joy in sort of, you know, trivial things, and that might trigger some people, but you know, finding that kind of like short-term joy, which is also fine if it's bringing us joy, by the way. And that's why I say it might trigger people, because it's not meant to be a bad thing. But I'm talking about the bigger picture. I'm talking about the bigger plan at hand here, and needing to have that focus, because ultimately the joy is going to come back to us when we can do that. Okay, but Capricorn is asking for that dedication and that determination and that drive and that focus. Okay, so that's what I'm saying with the energy here. There's also a Sesky square that's going from the sun and the moon up to Uranus, who is still in retrograde in Taurus. Okay, so that essence of change is of course still there. We're always being reminded of it. Things are changing. Our realities are changing. We know this. That's not a secret to anybody out there, I'm sure, who's on this path at the moment. But there is a minor challenging energy in terms of worth and values, I would say, because Taurus is about, you know, knowing our worth, upholding our values. So the change that we want to see in alignment with those values, well, we have to feel worthy of achieving it. So with these plans that we want to put in place, our reality, do we feel worthy of achieving it? Because that is where the minor challenge might come in. And we may need to adjust our values. So perhaps we've kind of had this vision for what we want our reality to be, and we know, right, we've got to do A, B, C, D, E, F. We've got to do, this is our plan. This is how we're going to move forward. Focus, focus, focus. Dedicated time. You know, that's scheduling, that sort of, which is more Virgo side, I must admit, but structured time to focus and that drive to get things done with the Saturnian Capricornian energy, in order to create change, Uranus, but needing to feel worthy of it. And this is all to do with our physical reality, of course. Taurus also likes the finer things in life. So, of course, yes, we want to experience the finer things in our own life. And what feels good, looks good to us, but we have to put the work and effort in order to get it. So that's where the minor challenge might come in, to remind us of our worth and understanding that we need to be in alignment with our values to create whatever change we're wanting to create going forward with these plans, with these intention settings that we're going to do, with these manifestations going forward. Okay. Fabulous. So that's the sun and the moon, of course, in that exact conjunction for the new moon. There's some other things I was drawn towards in the chart. Now you'll see there's many other lines going on there. Okay, and I can also see a yod actually, and that yod is pointing towards Chiron, but I haven't drawn the yod, although I can tell you that we've got Pars Fortuna at the base along with Poseidon and Juno. So that's very interesting in terms of our healing journey, and I might come on to that. But what I wanted to focus on with Chiron is this trine. So there's a trine from Chiron that's going to Mercury in Sagittarius. Okay, Mercury is in square to Saturn in Pisces. There's also a trine from Saturn, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But in terms of Mercury, that obviously relates to our communication, our expression. And being in Sagittarius, there is that fire energy, but there is also this motivational, inspiring expression. And as well as it being about the journey, the quest, what are we learning? What are we discovering? Okay, we might have discovered a lot about our own expression and how we do communicate or how we need to communicate on our path. But also, our very expression could be motivational for others. So as well as us learning, we're also teaching, okay? And this is about, okay, the arrow, the glyph there, is like the archer shooting the bow and arrow in the direction of that which he desires, of that which he wants. So it's empowered. It is that fire energy, but it's very much about, this is motivating me to go after what I want, and I'm learning about myself along the way. Okay, so the trine to Chiron in Aries is very healing for our sovereignty, because of course, as we get more empowered to say that's what I want, and I'm actually open to discover more about myself as I move forward on my path? Well, that's allowing us to step into more of a sovereign leadership role in our own lives, and vice versa. As we become more empowered as a sovereign being and we realize we are the leaders of our own life, we're in charge of our destiny here, that is also motivational for us within our very expression. So that allows us to learn a lot about ourselves, but also inspire others, because you can say, well, actually, as I've stepped into this leadership role and I realize this is what I want to do, just by saying that to somebody else can be very inspirational to yourself by expressing it, and to the other person. Okay. Other people may also be inspiring you through what they're saying. So it's very much about being open, because remember, Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, it's very expansive, okay, and it's also hopeful as well. So it's positive in terms of our expression, and to me it just feels very motivational and inspirational when we can align with our path, because that inspires us further, doesn't it? If we're being our true self and we are expressing ourselves as who we are, as the authentic self, then of course that is going to allow us to become even more sovereign on our path. The square from Mercury to Saturn is saying, okay, we may still be tested here, because are you really brave enough to speak up for yourself? Really? I'm going to put you in a situation where you're going to have to speak up for yourself. And that can feel intimidating, it can feel challenging, but when you've done it, that can be extremely liberating. But not only that, what is this about? Learning, discovery, the quest, Sagittarius. So by going through those experiences and being put in those situations where we're having to find our voice, where we're having to actually speak up, because we're actually feeling liberated enough within ourselves now to say, this is what I want, this is what I'm going towards, okay, and this is who I am. But we are still going to get tested. Okay, so it's really about understanding that these situations that come up, it's not to set us back, it's to propel us forward. It's to say, okay, you've shown that you're ready. Are you really ready? And, you know, being put into a situation where you're having to speak up for yourself is such a sort of liberating rite of passage, if you like, depending on the situation, but it can bring us more in alignment with our spiritual truth. And Saturn, as we know, is in Pisces, wanting us to get in alignment with our spiritual truth. So if we feel that something is not right and we have to say something, then this is allowing us to have that voice. But it might feel challenging because it is a step out of the comfort zone. And it can feel quite intimidating to do that for the first time. If we've already been doing it, it's just making us stronger with it. But if it's for the very first time, that can be very intimidating, but so transformative when we can do that. Because that is also then supporting that trine to Chiron by saying, you know, you're becoming more of a sovereign being because you are standing up for yourself. You are speaking up for yourself and you are speaking your truth. Okay. And that is very important for us to still have that, to be able to speak our truth. Okay. And even if we're speaking it to ourselves, that's another thing, because, you know, Mercury is about thoughts as well, how we communicate with ourselves. So we need to understand that we've got to talk to ourselves more kindly, especially with everything that we've had to face and go through. So we're learning lessons, and let's not be hard on ourselves. This is all about getting us in alignment with spiritual truth. So, excuse me, understanding the wisdom in these lessons and understanding the strength that it brings us as well. Okay. It's very healing. It's very healing. But because it's very healing, we have to go through certain things in order to heal that expression. It's one of those where we've got to really understand, because put it this way, how do we know if something is right for us if we haven't experienced things that are not right for us? Because it would just all be the same, wouldn't it? So we need to understand that we get put in situations for a reason, and we might question it at the time, but this is all about allowing us to expand our expression and to truly speak up for ourselves, because that is liberating, motivational, inspiring, and it allows us to learn a lot more about ourselves and other people in the process, okay, which is part of life's big lesson, okay, and it's making Saturn happy. It just might feel challenging. That explains the square, okay. Beautiful. Now Saturn, I mentioned about a trine. Saturn is in trine to Poseidon and Juno, that are over there in Scorpio. So 2 asteroids, okay. And in terms of sort of metaphorically shaking up the waters, that's what Poseidon can do. And Juno is very much about that commitment. It's love and commitment, okay. And also I feel that Juno can represent soul contracts as well, because it is that commitment aspect, okay. With the trine to Saturn, that's harmonious. So everything that we're going through at the moment, certainly in relation to our soul contracts, is actually supporting the lessons of Saturn. So we're learning these lessons of Saturn, and part of those lessons could very well be speaking our truth. So we might be in a soul contract with somebody, and it could be quite deep because we know Juno is in Scorpio. We've had to shake up the waters, or the universe has had to shake up the waters to get things up to the surface, okay, to cleanse and heal. It's very transformative energy, as we know. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. We know what Pluto is all about. So deep, transformative, okay. So these soul contracts that have been transforming may have forced us into a situation where we've had to speak our truth to get us in alignment with our spiritual truth more and the divine, and also to heal our sovereignty. So yes, the speaking up part of it was the challenging part. That's where the square is. But actually, that's been very, very positive for the soul contract. Now, if we look at Juno in terms of that commitment to ourselves as well, well, of course, you know, we need to understand the depth of that commitment to ourselves in order to receive those lessons from Saturn in the most positive way. Because when we understand who we are on a soul level, and we are deeply committed to uncovering, discovering who we are, we want to get to the bottom of our spiritual truth, then of course that is making Saturn happy, because it's the buy-in that Saturn needs to say, okay, you're open to this, here's a lesson for you, or here's a test for you. And again, that could have been the speaking up. It may simply be Saturn saying, well, I want you to talk kindly to yourself, because for 10 years you've been talking negatively to yourself, that you're not worthy of this, you're not worthy of that. You need to start talking to yourself more kindly. I'm going to put you in a situation that's going to shake up the waters, and you're going to understand your worth through that situation. And that's going to enable you to not only speak up to other people in terms of your truth, but to talk kindly to yourself. It might feel uncomfortable, and I'm sorry about that, but we've got to get this done. Okay, Saturn. You know, it's that kind of thing. So Saturn's there to help us. It might not feel like it, because he is a taskmaster. He wants us to get things done. This is why I'm saying we're in Capricorn season, and the moon is going to be in Capricorn, not the most comfortable place. But for drive, determination, success through achievement, and really being focused, absolutely. That's the great energy that we have from Saturn through Capricorn, okay? Now, I kind of glazed over it before, but Chiron is also in sextile to Jupiter, and Jupiter's still in retrograde at the moment in Gemini, okay? And that's not the best place for Jupiter to be either, because Jupiter rules Sag, and that's the opposite sign. It is mutable energy, but also, you know, I need to mention that Jupiter was the original ruler of Pisces before Neptune was discovered. So there is a spiritual aspect here. But during his retrograde, this expansion that Jupiter offers is internal, because it's a retrograde. So it's introspection. So it's internal growth and expansion. So the sextile is also a harmonious aspect. So yes, through our expression and opening up, speaking up, and motivating ourselves and others through our very expression is healing our sovereignty, but it's also allowing that inner growth and expansion that Jupiter can then enlighten us with. Okay. And when we can expand internally and we're growing, we become more sovereign as well, but we begin to receive, you know, in our external reality, those reflections of that growth and expansion, but it starts from within. Okay. So that's very important. Expression is a key part of this. Okay. So allowing yourself to feel free enough to express yourself for who you are. And also when you feel something is right, when something is not right, it's about speaking up. It's using the throat chakra. It's being open and expansive in the throat chakra when it comes to going after what you want. Okay. Because that is about the arrow there. Okay. The other thing I was drawn to before I move on to the other chart is the fact that we've got Pars Fortuna at 20 degrees of Virgo, which is exactly conjunct the ascendant of this chart. Now, if this was a natal chart, this would be the ascendant. This would be the rising sign of you as a person in your chart. And by the way, I've just spotted another yod there. Okay, very interesting. So sorry, I was distracted then. But yes, we have got this exact conjunction. And 2020, I mean, sorry, I have to say it, 2020 is when a lot of all of this started for us, because, you know, a lot of people actually began to awaken at that point. For myself, it was before then, but for a lot of people, 2020 was a pivotal turning point and a key moment in history that we are not going to forget in a hurry. But here we have got the ascendant of the event. Okay, so as I mentioned, if it was a natal chart, it would be your rising sign. But this is an event. This is a chart of an astrological event. So just for the purpose of looking at it here, it's in exact conjunction with the ascendant of this chart. And the ascendant, the rising, is all about how you show up in the world. Okay, it's your social personality. It's how other people see you. Now, this is an event. So, you know, if we're looking at the new moon, it's how people see the new moon. Okay, if you want to look at it with that interpretation. And with Pars Fortuna, the pot of fortune in Virgo, the success that comes from kind of cleaning things up is how this new moon is being seen. And that goes hand in hand with the determination and the drive of the Capricornian energy on the new moon to set those intentions to get things done, because Virgo is all about cleaning things up, getting things in order. So they kind of match in that way. But there's also something about being of service here as well. So we still need to sort of maintain that integrity of being of service within the community, if you like, within our soul tribes, but to ourselves also. Okay. And, you know, we're wanting to get things in order because we want that success for ourselves. And this is all about how, you know, we're showing up in alignment with the new moon. Okay. So the new moon is there. How are we going to show up for the new moon? What intentions are we going to set for it? And how pivotal is that going to be for our success moving forward? Well, with that drive and determination and putting our own rules and boundaries in place, that's going to be successful for us. Okay, but we've got to look at all the other things. Like I was saying, the shadow aspects, look at where we're investing the Venus energy. Are we speaking up in the way that we need to speak up? Are we learning those lessons? Okay, are we committed to ourselves? All of those things I've just covered. Okay, it's the bigger picture. So that was just something I wanted to leave you with on that particular chart. Now I'm going to just show you this chart against the UK's natal chart, okay, to give you some context. So this is what I would do if I was doing like a personal reading for somebody and looking at a horoscope, okay, for somebody, because you look at the transits of the event of that new moon against your natal chart, and it shows you the heightened energies, okay, and it's the you know, the planets and the asteroids, the signs, the degrees, the aspects between them all, the houses. There's a lot. It's a big picture. Trust me, astrology, massive, many layers to it, okay. And here what we've got is the UK's natal chart inner wheel, and we've got the new moon as the outer wheel, okay. And I appreciate, and I say this all the time, but it's a smaller circle in the middle for me to draw the same lines, so it always looks a bit messier when I do it this way, but hopefully you get the gist of what I'm saying, because it's just really a representation to show you how it's playing out for the UK in terms of the natal chart, okay. So very interestingly, the new moon is happening in the 6th house. Okay, and the 6th house is daily routines and schedules and where we are of service to people. Okay, so if we look at plans for 2025 and what we're wanting to set our intentions for going into this new year, the new lunar cycle and the new year, then of course we need to look at what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Is that aligning with our goal? Is that aligning with what we want to achieve in 2025? Do we need to make changes here? What plans do we need to put in place? Where do we need focus? Where do we need rules? Where do we need boundaries? And similarly, where we're of service to people, do we need more boundaries in place? Do we need to put rules in place in relation to, you know, where we're of service to others? It's looking at that. Okay, so that could be resonating for you. And of course, your own natal chart is going to give you a much more specific view for yourself. So look at where the moon is actually going to be for the new moon. Okay, see what house, see if there's anything else going on. But that's happening in the 6th house collectively, the UK's natal chart. Okay. Now, I mentioned to you just now about past Fortuna being conjunct the ascendant of the astrological event. And this is happening. You can see it clearer here. Okay, because there's the exact conjunction, and it's exactly conjunct degrees and minutes. I mean, that's just so profound because it's exact at that time. It's a freeze frame of the cosmos. But to have the minutes the same, that happens, of course, with the new moon, because it's the moon and the sun at the exact same. But to have that was quite something. So that really stood out to me. And that is happening in the 3rd house, and that is the house of expression. So what I was saying to you about, you know, our communication and how that can be liberating when we speak our truth and when we speak up for ourselves, when we stand up for ourselves, but also when we speak kindly to ourselves as well, what we're discovering about that, then it's definitely relating to how we're showing up for this new moon and the success that can come from that. If we can align ourselves with that authentic expression and know that part of this journey of what we're trying to manifest for 2025 involves us speaking up and speaking our truth, that's going to bring us that success, and it's going to allow us to clean things up and get things in order that the Virgo energy is calling for. Okay. Mercury himself is transiting the 5th house and is not so far off the vertex point. So fated and destined here. Okay, fated and destined. Mercury is highlighting that. So this is to do with a very kind of pivotal moment going into this new year of our expression and opening up our expression, expanding that and motivating ourselves and others. And this is in the 5th house. So this is the place of the heart chakra. This is about joy. This is about creative artistic expression as well. So the things that we want to do, the people that we want to surround ourselves with that bring us that joy, then we need to be able to express ourselves and open ourselves up to that expression in order to bring about our destiny. Okay, now that's also going to expand the physical reality for us because Ceres is there in Sag. It's also going to bring that success because past Fortuna is there as well, but Saturn is there, so it's very much about lessons. You know, we could be as a collective learning lessons about, you know, what does bring us joy, because we can be in the rat race, we can be just trundling on with life and not even realizing what truly brings us joy. And when we come to the end of a year and we're moving into the new year, as I say, New Year's resolutions always come up. But this is about sticking to our New Year's resolutions because they're bigger than that. It's about a new reality. So if we want to feel empowered to speak up for ourselves, certainly from a place of love, certainly from the place of the heart chakra, what brings us joy, who we want to be around, what we want to do, because that brings us joy, or those people bring us joy, we need to feel confident to speak up for ourselves. And what have we learned about that so far? Okay, it's tied in with investment of energy because, you know, we might have been hanging around with people that really did not serve us and it's made us unhappy. Whereas other people, we want to invest more of our time and energy in because they make us happy. And it's what we've discovered. But are we ready to speak our truth about that? Okay, so that's very important as well. And Chiron is there in the 10th house. So that trine from Mercury to Chiron is about our inner authority. you know, it's establishing that confidence in our expression to speak up, and how that's healing our inner authority, because we're standing up for ourselves, okay, and we're becoming more empowered in doing so. And Jupiter is in the 11th house, so that inner expansion and growth that's going on as a result of that is also having an impact on our connections with others, and it's allowing us to maybe expand our social network, but also it's allowing us to perhaps see things from different perspectives as well, because we're becoming more empowered and more quote unquote safe in our own skin in terms of who we are. Okay, so we're not just following the herd, we're not just being, you know, sheep and all of that, we're just actually being ourselves. And if it's opening up more dynamics, it's allowing us to see things from different perspectives, because we are fully comfortable in who we are in terms of our expression, and we know what makes us happy and who makes us happy. Then that is going to empower our inner authority, and it's going to make our connections with others tighter, because that's where we find our true soul tribe. Okay. We've also got things going on here in the 9th house, because that's where Saturn is, okay, and the vertex point is transiting that as well. So there is that closeness there of the kind of destined alignment with us getting into our spiritual truth. What we are learning about that 9th house in terms of those lessons, how that is kind of being challenged or is challenging our expression within the heart space, you know, because we're learning this, we're discovering this, but also, you know, the bigger picture here of our expression, certainly within the 3rd house, and Lilith being there, just there on the cusp of the 3rd and 4th house, but she is in the 4th house. That's to do with our foundation. Okay, so that is definitely those shadow aspects that have maybe rocked our foundation that we need to address, and also those deep desires of how we want to lay our foundation in our new reality and our family life. This is what we want for our life. We want it to be balanced, we want it to be harmonious, and you know, yes, okay, it's challenging us, because we need to know, or we need to understand, that we've got to do things to bring about the change, but we have to acknowledge those shadow aspects, because those are the patterns from the past that I was mentioning before that need to be addressed, you know, because okay, we've tried this before, we've gone after what we wanted to do, we've been driven and determined, and then something's happened that's thrown us off course, that's then created fear within us, so therefore we block these opportunities because we are scared it's going to happen again. And you know, we've got to take emotion out of this, because Capricorn doesn't want that emotion, so it's almost like, right, we've got to power through without feeling it, and that can be hard. That's where the challenging energy comes in. And I would say the biggest thing to look at with the square there, personally, as well as that challenge to our expression, which is part of our healing journey, but we've got to address the shadow aspects that's coming up from Lilith as well, because she is also teaching us what we need to see in order to heal it and move forward. Okay, because we don't want to be repeating the same patterns, do we? We've got to kind of close out those old narratives once and for all. That's what it's all about here. It's stepping into a new reality, a new cycle, lunar and a year cycle, when it comes to the calendar year, not the astrological year, the calendar year. Okay, right, let's end that there. So as I mentioned before, you know, there's a lot still coming up in January. The nodal shift is the big one, and I will be doing a separate video on that, because that is going to be a big one. And it's really sort of like moving us more in the direction of spirituality. You know, it's mutable energy as well. There's more of a flow to this. Whereas at the moment we're in Aries and Libra with the North Node and South Node respectively, and that's cardinal energy. So, you know, when we think of that, to give you a little bit of a node lesson, if you've not heard me say this before, but the North Node is the direction in which we're heading. The South Node is where we're moving away from, because we're going from the South Node to the North Node. So the North Node is like our guiding light, our guiding star. So it's, you know, at the moment in Aries, that's about moving in the direction of sovereignty. Okay, we want to lay that foundation of fairness, justice and reciprocity, because that's Libra, but we're moving towards sovereignty, being the leader of our own life, the self. Okay, we have to focus on the self, and we've had to do that for the past year or so. So focus on the self. we're moving into a Pisces north node because the nodes move backwards. Okay, so we're moving into a Pisces north node and a Virgo south node. So Virgo, yes, that is all about structure, cleaning things up, but also it's about service. And it can be that sort of sacred servant energy. It does make me think of tarot, the hermit. Okay, but it's also that sacred service energy. And Pisces is very ethereal, mystical, very spiritual energy. Okay, so we're moving in that mutable energy, or moving into that mutable energy, should I say, where we're heading more in the direction of our spirituality and connecting more with the 5D, connecting more with source via our intuition, and obviously having that structure at the base, but still having that essence of being a sacred servant, if you like. That's what's propelling us forward into more of that ethereal essence. But when we look at past life karma and things like that, it could bring up a lot more to do with aspects where things have been, you know, too controlling or perfectionist, because we have to look at the shadow side of Virgo as well. So again, I'll do a separate video on that. That's coming up on the 11th of January. And I find that very interesting because that's 111 for us anyway. I know in Australia it's going to be the 12th, but I was very drawn to that anyway. So I'm just going to pull some cards now. I will timestamp this, obviously. I usually do that in case people want to just jump ahead to the card section, just for some additional messages. Okay, so first of all, let's go sovereign and let's go Queen of the Moon. Okay, this is particularly for the new moon in Capricorn. What else do we need to know? There's obviously emphasis around shadow aspects, acknowledgement of where things maybe have not worked out in the past, where we have been driven to excel and succeed in what we're trying to do by putting all the work in. You know, we want to feel like we're putting the work in, we're going to, you know, receive. And if we've had aspects in the past where we've done that and then it's all kind of like fallen away, or we've been kind of thrown off track by something, it can then make us hesitant because we think, well, if I put all that effort in again and it's the same result, I've wasted my time and energy. So it's understanding where those shadow aspects come from, because perhaps in the situation in the past, there was some other factor that needed to be paid attention to. So it's almost reframing what happened in order to allow, you know, that shadow aspect in particular to be healed. But we have to acknowledge it first. We can't just say, yeah, I've healed it, without addressing it. We need to look at it. Okay. So yeah, that's just something that we need to look at, as well as our expression and feeling like we can open ourselves up to our true expression to be motivational and inspirational for ourselves and others. Okay, Queen of the Moon, what do we have for the collective, please? Thank you. Go for one more. Okay, right. So I don't usually take oracles in reverse, but what's interesting is all of these came out in reverse, which does tell me there is some resistance and some hesitancy, like I was just mentioning. We have got, and I'm going to show you them in the upright, we've got surrender, which is a key thing when it comes to our manifestations. We don't just manifest and then the day after say, where is it? That's not how it works, and that's just going to block it further. Okay, and I've been guilty of that in the past. Maybe not the next day, but you know what I'm saying. It's almost like, well, I've manifested this. Where is it? It's all in divine timing, and some people might yawn when I say that, and it might trigger some people as well. But this is all about, you know, lining up with our intentions and making sure our vibration, our frequency is in alignment with that in order to receive whatever it is. And it's going to come to us in whatever way the universe decides to deliver it, not in the way we choose it to look. Okay. And that is going to be another lesson for the Virgo South Node, I think, when we move into that. Okay. Right. Surrender. We need to surrender. Surrender to the higher force. Okay, but we've got that source energy within us, so we can connect with our intuition, but we need to surrender to the beauty and the magic of it. Okay, it's very important, especially when intention setting. Hunger, yeah, we probably deeply crave something in our reality, and that's what we're trying to work towards. That's what we're trying to aim towards. Okay, growth. So even amidst those challenges, And where we might be sort of waiting or being patient for our manifestations, there is still beauty in the growth. We are still growing. And remember, with Jupiter retrograde, there's a lot of internal growth going on at the moment. So we may not be able to see it. But then if you were to look back in the next 6 months, you look back and say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm actually in a different place. You could probably do that now and think back to the beginning of 2024. A lot's changed, you know, a lot of things have happened and a lot has changed within me and also in my external reality, but we don't often notice it day to day. Okay. But there is a lot of significant growth that's been happening this past year. Absolutely. Now on the bottom, we've got darkness and release. So yes, there is a need to release. Now that's more attributed to the full moon. We've got the next full moon coming up on the 13th or 14th of Jan, depending on where you are. For us in the UK, it's the 13th, and it's the full moon in Cancer. Okay. However, what I will say is, because we're closing out a year, it is about detaching from, you know, what has kind of been and gone, what's not serving us anymore. We're closing out a massive cycle. Okay, and it's about releasing and the transformation and the light that can come from that, and the liberation. And I'm also being drawn back to that opening up our expression. That's coming from her heart space as well. So that expansion of the heart chakra and actually being open to that energy of aligning with, you know, connecting with people and situations that bring us that joy allows for further liberation like that and transformation. We become more of who we are, and that's what allows us to step into that authentic expression of who we are. Okay, and to move past the shadow aspects, because we step more into that truth of who we are. We release those patterns of the past that's not serving us, but we might have had to go through dark night of the soul. This is about allowing, you know, the moon to guide our path. Again, that's usually a full moon because that's illuminating, and in this card it's actually an eclipse. However, for the new moon, this is about understanding what that new cycle means for us, what that new year means for us, and allowing the energy of that to propel us forward. Remember, I was saying in the astrology, it's about aligning with how we want to show up for this new moon. And that's based on what we want for ourselves going forward into this next new year. Okay, new calendar year. Let's get some additional messages from Moonology. Okay, Moonology manifestations deck. See what else we have. Okay. So please, on this new moon in Capricorn. Very sweet one. One's gone on the floor. Bear with me. Yes. Interestingly, all of these have come out in the upright. So there we go. We have got, now this is a new moon, but it's in Libra, but it says, know you are loved, which is beautiful. Okay. And we often forget that because we just sort of go along our day-to-day life, and we just, you know, we're going at 100 miles an hour in our own lives. There's so much to do. There's so much stress in this world. It's unreal. And it just, you know, we need to take a moment. We need to take a beat here and know that we are loved. This is kind of a bigger message about knowing that you are loved from the divine perspective. Okay. Because the divine wants us to succeed. Full moon in Capricorn, interestingly, take a reality check. Well, yeah, we have got to take a reality check for this new moon. I know that's full moon energy, but we still have to take a reality check to understand this is where we are at the end of 2024. Do we want more of the same in 2025? Or are we going to move forward into something new? Let's take a reality check on our own lives. Where are we investing our time, energy, and love? Are we speaking up where we need to? What shadow aspects do we need to look at? Can I really be driven enough to, you know, propel myself forward? It's a reality check, but it's a reality check without emotion. Okay. In order to get things done. Okay. And then we've got full moon in Sag. See the bigger picture. Yeah. That's that expansive energy of Sagittarius. Okay. And that is about shooting the bow and arrow in the direction of that which you're wanting, but seeing the bigger picture of why certain things have played out the way they've played out to get you to this point. Okay, because for instance, you might have got to this point to say, this happened in 2024. Enough is enough, no more. 2025 is going to be different. I want to do this. I want to do that. That makes me happy. I want to do that. Right, I'm going to do this, this, and this to achieve this. And I'm not going to let anything get in my way. I want to achieve this. It's my life. I've got to focus on myself, be committed to myself. This is the direction in which I'm going. Easier said than done. Appreciate that. But remember, it's Capricorn energy. If we can align with it, that's going to allow us to succeed. It's going to make Saturn happy as well. But the bigger picture is why all those other things have happened. To get us to this point of saying no more. It's just no, no more. Knowing that you're loved, okay, so amidst all of the challenges and everything that's got us to this point of saying, I want things to change. If that's your story, you might say, actually, no, I'm really happy with how 2024 was. And, you know, that's fine with me. It can carry on. No problem, because everybody's got free will. Everybody's on their own unique path. But for those of you that know that 2024, past few months, past 6 months, whatever it was, enough of that. I am not tolerating that anymore. We've had to experience those things to get us to that point, because again, how are we going to know it's not for us if it doesn't create that reaction within us? But we are the ones who can change things. We've got to see the bigger picture of why it's happened, why it's played out in that way. It could be a lesson to teach us our worth. It could be a lesson to teach us, you know, to empower our communication and to speak up. So whatever it might be, at the time, it might have felt very challenging. When we look back, that's why that happened. Okay, great. I'll carry the wisdom forward, but I'm not doing that again in 2025. And that's how we move forward. Okay. And then on the bottom, we have got last quarter moon in Virgo. Attend to the details. Virgo is all about details. And interestingly, underneath that, we've got full moon in Pisces, forgive. So again, with the nodal shift, Pisces, Virgo, that's going to be interesting. But yes, there is that compassionate feeling to what we've experienced, because we need to almost forgive ourselves, okay, for being hard on ourselves when we've gone through these lessons, when we've gone through these experiences, okay? And that's part of the shadow work, actually, that, you know, back in the astrology that I mentioned with Lilith, that could be challenging that energy. And that's why the new moon is heightened, because of that square aspect, okay? That could be the case, because perhaps we do need to forgive ourselves for, you know, certain things, or perhaps we have even acknowledged that we've made a wrong turn in our lives, or we've made a decision that's kind of took us on a detour, whereas we could have done something else. It was all meant to be how it was, but we can often challenge ourselves and be hard on ourselves by saying, no, I did the wrong thing. I did the wrong thing. No, did the right thing for you at the time. So forgive yourself for any kind of negative talk that you've given yourself, because actually it was meant to play out that way. Okay. And that's where forgiveness comes in. And also, you know, with other people, others that might have hurt you. But, you know, their journey is their responsibility, and their healing journey. We can't change that, of course, but we can offer forgiveness to the situation and understand, okay, that person might be going through something. So, okay, they might have hurt me, but I forgive them because I want to move on with my life now, as an example. Okay, so that essence of forgiveness and detaching, releasing from negative self-talk is part of those patterns and those old stories that we need to close out. And attending to the details goes hand in hand with that Capricornian energy, because the Virgo energy likes to have plans in place as well, likes to be structured and organized, likes things just so. Okay, so it can border on perfectionism, but maybe we need a bit of perfectionism in our own life, because we are the masters of our own destiny. Bit cheesy, I know, but we are. So if we want things to be a certain way, we have to be careful here, because of course the divine can assist us, but it will be how the divine wants it to be. But if we want to do something, you know, this is what I want for my reality. This is what job I want. This is what project I want. This is the relationship. You know, I want to have a true love relationship, blah, blah, blah. fill in the blank, whatever it might be for you. This is what I want. This is what I want to strive towards for 2025. And as long as it's coming from yourself and it's not affecting someone else's free will, because that is not acceptable to do, then of course this is about attending to the details, because we need those details to work with to put our plans in place. Okay, so if we're working towards a promotion, it's like, well, I want to aim for that promotion, for example, and I know that to do that, I've got to do this training course. I've got to do a bit of research about this. I need to connect with these individuals because they've got more experience. And I think that's going to work out to be a 3-6 month plan, whatever it might be. And then I can go for that promotion. So that is aligning yourself. That's an example of aligning yourself with the energy of what you want to achieve and working towards it. It's not to say that it's going to be a definite outcome in that way. It's aligning with the energy. Okay, and if it's meant for you, it will work out in that way. But you see what I'm saying about, you know, and I could go deeper with all of this stuff, but it's about aligning with the energy, because if that's something that you're really wanting and it's coming from your spiritual truth, then of course the path will then unfold for you. The more steps you take, the more action you take, the path unfolds and you gain more wisdom in terms of the next step. Okay, but again, I could talk about this for ages and I could go down the rabbit hole with this. But essentially, you know, when we go back to the chart that I just showed you and the new moon in Capricorn, it is all about, of course, intention settings for the next lunar cycle. And because we are at the end of 2024, it's about, you know, next year and what we're wanting for ourselves for this next year. And having that determination and drive and focus of the Capricorn energy to achieve that for ourselves. Okay. And that comes from us, that drive and determination. We're the only ones that can put the work in, you know, towards those goals, those dreams. But it needs to be very, very focused, because that is the Capricorn energy. And rules is something that's quite big that comes up for me, and boundaries. So it's establishing those as well. And maybe you've got to put up some boundaries to get the work done. Maybe you've got to put certain rules in place for yourself to get things done. That's going to keep you motivated. Okay, so something to ponder on certainly over the next few days until we've got this new moon in Capricorn. And as I say, I will be doing a separate video on the nodal shift that's coming up, but that's going to be big energy, that shift as well. Sending you all the best for this new moon in Capricorn, and take care of yourself, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.